a lot of people out there, but for these guys racing in this series, it's certainly been a hard-fought championship so far, and we're looking to get it going again here. My name is Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box is Cameron Dance. Once again, Cam, we're at Watkins for round 4. Nice long track, over 2-minute lap times, but these trucks are being driven as hard as ever. We appear to not be receiving Cameron Dance at the moment, so we'll give him a couple of moments to come on in. But I'm looking forward to this round in particular. We're in qualifying at the moment. Every driver has 1 lap in order to set their qualifying time, and no one has put in a representative time just yet. But we're still waiting on the final times to come in, and then we'll get ready for 2 races to set the feature grid and then a feature to end off the night. Cameron, do you have us?
Had the wrong mic assigned on Discord, but never mind. Yeah, it's going to be a really, really good night of racing. I think Watkins usually provides really entertaining racing majority of the time, and it doesn't matter what car you're in or what layout it is either. So, yeah, looking forward to it and seeing what we're going to have tonight.
Yes, indeed. This track has been around in its current form with the boot extension since the early 1970s. It's 5.4 kilometers in length with 11 turns, and every single one of them requires a great deal of commitment in these trucks. I did some laps yesterday, and finding that you can take the S's flat out in these things, but other than that, you're balancing your truck the whole way through.
It's got a lot of corners that I guess wouldn't really suit these trucks more or less. So it's really a balancing act through a lot of them, especially the likes of the carousel and the toe of the boot, where you're trying not to get on the pedal as early as you possibly can, but also you're trying to do that at the same time. So it's, yeah, a really, really interesting mix of different corners and ways of attacking the circuit.
Yeah, we're getting a bit of a demonstration of that from Daniel Stevens right now as he makes his way through the last few turns here at Watkins Glen. But across the line he goes. See where he puts himself. That's up into P5. Not too bad. Fastest time at the moment is Sam Devantier on a 2:08.414. And mid 2:08s are what you would usually see from the top guys in these trucks around here. Last minute of qualifying, and Stevens is going to negotiate his in-lap, jump back into the pits. Kay Donnelly has just gone to pole position, pipping Sam Devantier by 2/10, but it's looking pretty close there in the top 3.
Well, there's nothing separating them at all, really, especially the likes of Devantier and McLeod, who are separated by absolutely nothing, less than a tenth. So it's going to be interesting to see what sort of racing we're going to see and see whether the draft is really going to have as big of an impact as it might possibly have.
Yes, indeed. The draft can be quite useful in a racing situation, but for Kay Donnelly to do that kind of time by himself is something pretty special. Sam Stride there on his way out onto the circuit. He's not going to have time to set a lap. That makes it a grand total of 5 drivers who have not been able to set a time for this first race of the night, for which they line up as follows. Kay Donnelly and Sam Devantier are on the front row. Mitchell McLeod and Lockie Dalton on the second row of the grid. They're followed up by Aaron Dillon and Harry Tompkins, who completes the top 6. Daniel Stevens and Damian Westbrook 7th and 8th, with Nathan Verney and Joshua Thomas rounding out the top 10.
Just outside the top 10, you've got Dwayne Priest, followed by Lindsay Hobbs and Finlay and Philip Howell, and then you've got Gary Wellman running out the top 15. Todd Maxfield, Sam Stride, Brian Treaser, Ricardo Mortagani, and then you've got Justin Howell and Malcolm Coitz rounding out the 21-car field.
Yeah, so a nice reasonable grid here at Watkins Glen, and I'm interested to see what the start is going to bring as the drivers line up on the grid. We're still missing our pole sitter, Kay Donnelly, but he has 1 minute left of gridding time to get himself on there. And with that, it looks like our pole sitter is there, still waiting on Mitchell McLeod to jump onto the grid. And when we come into turn 1, the 90, you are going to see something quite interesting because the drivers will be getting on the brakes super late, going through this banked 90-degree right-hander to start off the lap. Just waiting for the grid timer to run down, and then we'll be able to get our start. It's a standing start in these trucks, and as we saw at Barcelona, the launch is incredibly important. It's a long straight at Watkins Glen, not quite as long of a run to turn one as we saw at Barcelona, but if you mess it up on the grid, then you're going to have a tough time coming into the braking zone for that first turn. 10 seconds to go, and then the revs should rise. The lights will go up on the grid, and we will be running for round 4 of the Pro Truck Showdown here at Watkins Glen. The revs rise. We're getting ready to go. Kay Donnelly is revving the mother out of that engine as the grid timer comes to 0, and the green flag is away. And off the drivers go, off the grid for round 4 of the Pro Truck Showdown. It was a great start from Donnelly, a better start from Mitchell McLeod. He's almost gotten Sam Devantier coming into the first turn. And there's the melee starting up at the back. We've got a couple of drivers running wide like Philip Howe, and he's going to make contact with Gary Wellman, and they're both going to go into Sam's stride. 3 wide coming up through the S's with Howe on the outside there. You see him having to get to the grass in order to even make it through the turn. But there we go. They're all through the S's, and now the draft comes into effect down this back straight. For Kay Donnelly, though, it looks like a pass from Mitchell McLeod there up ahead as we ride on board with Daniel Stevens and Harry Tompkins. You see the field close up massively coming into the carousel. Some big oversteer from that looked like Daniel Stevens, but they've all managed to get through the first part of the lap at least.
Like, it's been a pretty clean start so far for everybody. No real incidents. Couple obviously trying to gain positions, and obviously some gaining losing positions. There's a few running wide on the way into the boot, but for the most part it was still pretty clean.
Yeah, Sam Devantier and Daniel Stevens making contact coming through this section as we take a look at the battle for 4th place, and much side-by-side running down in the back of the field. Nathan Verney side-by-side with I think that's Christopher Finlay, and oh my goodness, down there for 3rd place, Lockie Dalton and Sam Devantier come together, and that has shafted Lockie all the way back into P7 and into the pursuing pack.
Really shuffled it up, and they're still being embarging further as well.
Oh,
we're going to make it fairly through and bouncing off the bearing in the process, but so far it's we've all still made it through.
Yeah, there's Christopher Finlay heading up this big pack. Sam Stride and Lindsay Hobbs running side by side with Dwayne Priest and Todd Maxfield battling on the entry into the final turn. Oh, there's no space at all between any of these drivers. Priest gets out ahead with Maxfield just covering off Joshua Thomas, but it's a bad exit from Nathan Verney. He's going to get passed by Gary Wellman as they come across the line. But Priest and Maxfield, they make contact once again. That's Maxfield to the inside of the turn. Dwayne Priest using all of the runoff area to try and get the run, but it's not working.
Looked like it's been able to work in his favor, unfortunately, so he's not going to be able to take advantage of that move that he was trying to make. But you can see it's still 2x2 up the S's and making it work as they nearly open the barrier.
Yeah, goodness me, who was that? It looked like probably Joshua Thomas or someone along those lines. Single file for a lot of drivers down the back straight as they come into the carousel with Damian Westbrook defending there from Harry Tompkins coming into that particular corner. These laps, these heats, 5 laps in length, so we should be done in the next 8 minutes, and we'll get ready to go for the 6-lap consolation where the entire field gets inverted. There's Christopher Finlay on Lindsay Hobbs, and he is through. It looks like they've got a driver looking to take advantage of that as well, coming up to this right-hander. But Dwayne Priest, unfortunately, unable to take advantage of that. Stuck on the outside, gives Todd Maxfield a bit of biff and barge, and here he comes on Sam Stride. More contact between the two of them. Oh, Maxfield fishtailing down the straight, but well recovered from him. Priest ultimately decides not to go for the move on Sam's Stride, but he might have it done for him because there is a big slide from Stride in front of him. Now he's got the outside line for this left-hander with the uphill approach. Got to be careful, though. This turn goes on a bit longer than you think, and the late apex helps. As you can see there from Dwayne Priest, he now has the inside line for this upcoming left-hander. But is he brave enough to go under the brakes? Yes, he is. But Stride holding on around the outside. This is for the last couple positions outside the top 10, so there's still quite a bit to play for. Priest, unfortunately, shuffled onto the outside line. Contact with Joshua Thomas. And Sam Stride is safe once more, at least for a bit.
For a bit is the big point right there, because we know it's all going to change.
Oh!
As that's move up the inside
Thomas.
From Thomas out of absolutely nowhere, and he's been just coming up even more as Max Fielders are nearly shoving each other in the wall.
Goodness me, that was a nasty surprise. Dwayne Priest shuffled to the outside in the S's. It's flat out through here, so he's not going to have much trouble getting up to the wall and onto the straight once again. For the lead, though, Cade Donnelly in the draft of Mitchell McLeod. He's going to go for the move at the carousel, getting McLeod back for what happened on lap 1. So now we have a new race leader. Sam Devantier, Daniel Stevens, and Aaron Dillon behind, looking to capitalize.
They will be hoping to try and capitalize on this little battle that's just ahead of them. Is Cade Donnelly running a little bit deep there and letting Mitchell McLeod on through, and that's going to allow everybody else to get a little bit closer, but not quite close enough to make a move at the moment.
Oh, McLeod himself running wide on the entry to the turn, and that's going to allow Donnelly back through on the inside line. But the way that corner works is it opens up a little, so if you're on the outside, you stand a chance of actually getting a better exit. Donnelly is still side by side with McLeod, though, so this is going to be a move. Oh, no, bit of a bump there from Sam Devantier. I think it might have actually helped Cade Donnelly get alongside McLeod, but now they're going to be 3 wide coming up to the left-hander. What does Devantier do? He pulls out and tries his best to cover off from Stevens and Dillon, but he gets a bit of rear-end contact, and there's Cade Donnelly. He's been shuffled out wide by that incident, and now Mitchell McLeod has the lead, and it looks like he's going to gap them because Devantier and Stevens side by side through the right-hander is just going to give McLeod a gap.
Certainly isn't going to be helping them battling as hard as they are, but certainly don't count anyone out at this point as Donnelly gets very sideways out of the final corner. But yeah, certainly no one can be counted out of this battle. Stevens is looking and put a move on Sam Devantier here around the outside. He's probably not going to be able to hold it and slots him behind.
Yeah, Devantier goes all the way out into the runoff area from turn 1. That's an off track right there, but I don't think that's mattering too much in this particular series. McLeod enjoying that gap up at the front of the field as we ride on board with Lockie Dalton, and this is the pack. And oh, that's a big hit there from Cade Donnelly, getting into what's become known in the AusNZ community as Madison's Wall. Madison down in the V8s has had a couple of acquaintances with that one. Aaron Dillon and Daniel Stevens now side by side. Dillon pounces out on the outside into the carousel. Slight bit of contact between the two of them, but that's much of a muchness for them. McLeod looks like hasn't quite been able to get away. That draft is quite powerful. It means that there's an entire train here in the lead group.
And it's not really helping Mitch McLeod as a result either, because he's not really able to pull away, even though he's probably got some decent pace under him to try and pull away as well. But he's just going to have to deal with it and hope that they don't catch up, especially with the fact that there's going to be just over 1.5 laps to go at this point. So he's just got to try push on and see what he can do at this point.
Yeah, that's it. In terms of Cade Donnelly, well, he's still back in P5 and doesn't look like he has much of a chance of getting further up to the lead of this one, but the drivers will know that their finishing positions in this one are the opposite to where they will start for the second race. So these guys you see racing for the lead right now, they're going to be starting at the very back. Next race, oh, it's a huge crash there. Up and over is Daniel Stevens and taking Damien Westbrook for a ride as well. Christopher Finlay too. Looks like the track's blocked a bit there. We're going to get a replay of that one because Daniel Stevens was knocked around a bit there. Down into this right-hander. That was contact with Aaron Dillon on the exit. And then Cade Donnelly didn't really have many places to go. So Daniel Stevens with heavy damage and a blown engine After running in a potential top 3 position, he's going to be a bit dirty about that one as we start the final lap.
Yeah, he's not happy with that result. Nor is Finlay, who really didn't have anywhere to go. Unfortunately, was an innocent bystander in that whole incident as well. So not going to be an ideal finish for those drivers in this race, although they will start front of the field in the next one. So might be a blessing in disguise for them, but it's certainly on for the final spot on the podium, though, between it
and for the lead.
Dalton and the lead as well, as Devontae is looking up the inside, McLeod, and Lockie Dalton's looking up the inside of Donnelly.
Yeah, well, let's see if Donnelly yields to this one. On the inside he goes, but Sam Devante has managed to get into the lead. He's going to be passed back by McLeod, though, into the left-hander. Goodness me, that was a huge incident there. I don't even know how to dissect that, but now Harry Tompkins into the top 3. Mitchell McLeod has gotten back into the lead up front, meanwhile, as they still make contact behind. Between Harry Tompkins and Lockie Dalton, Cade Donnelly gives both of them a tap, and out of the way goes Lockie Dalton, shuffled to the back of this pack. Cade Donnelly side-by-side contact with Harry Tompkins. He wants this top 3 position back, and he's going to get it at all costs. But have a look at the draft from Aaron Dillon. He's got a chance to make it 3 wide here. A little bit of a tap on Donnelly, who goes into Tompkins. Harry Tompkins then shuffled out of position. Let's see if he can get Cade Donnelly back at this left-hander. Oh, big dive from the inside from Aaron Dillon. It looks like he might get it done here. Fantastic moves. So Aaron Dillon up then into P4, but up the front, it's only got 1 corner to go for Mitchell McLeod and Sam Devantia. No Hail Mary move from Sam here. He's already had his chance to take the lead, and Mitchell McLeod has protected it magnificently all throughout. So he's going to take the first race win of the night. Big oversteer moment from Sam Devantia across the line. That's the top 2. Cade Donnelly completes the podium with Aaron Dillon finishing right behind him. Then it's Tompkins and Dalton, 5th and 6th.
What a scrap it was inside that top 5, and just managed to hold on. Did McLean hold on? Was Cade Donnelly, but it's certainly all going on further back as Maxfield and Thomas and Priest were all battling to the line, but it's going to be Todd Maxfield that'll come out ahead of them. Grab them all.
Well, that is the finishing order, and we're going to wait for the last few drivers to cross the line, and we'll be back very shortly for the second race of the night. 6 laps coming up. And we are on the grid for the consolation here in the Pro Truck Showdown. Of course, a big thanks to a big sponsor, Scamander Coffee Mug. You can see them on the front bumper of every single truck out here. It's time for the second race of the night, where the entire grid from race 1, the finishing order, is reversed. So that means that Malcolm Coots is going to start on pole alongside Justin and Philip Howe, the son and the father, in the top 3. Christopher Finlay and Gary Wellman round out the top 5, with Stevens, Morganti, Trezise, Verney, and Priest your top 10. Everyone else, the top drivers from the very start of this night, are going to start at the back of the grid, Cam.
Yeah, certainly. They're going to have the work cut out for them moving it through the field, although I don't think there should be too many issues with how strong the draft has been and how quick they are. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But nevertheless, we're not too far away from going racing and getting this one underway.
Yeah, it looks like the supposed top 3 not taken to the grid as we are green. So it's Finlay starting from pole. That was a big bog down from Ricardo Morganti. Nathan Verney having to take avoiding action with Dwayne Priest down there as they head down into turn 1. Gary Wellman takes the race lead from Christopher Finlay. That's not a great exit from Christopher either. Daniel Stevens is going to get up on the inside of him. That's contact with Dwayne Priest. He's sent sliding across the track as they go side by side. Nathan Verney shuffled straight off the racing surface, but still manages to keep it going as they go side by side through the very narrow portion at the top of the S's. Oh, Sam Stride. Goodness me. He's all over the racetrack, and the draft really comes into effect here. Let's see what happens for the top 3. Gary Wellman is in trouble here because Christopher Finlay and Daniel Stevens on him. Stevens gets Finlay on the inside, but Wellman stays in the lead for now.
Yeah, he holds on to it for the time being, but they're full wide up on the way up the S's, so absolutely crazy at the battle.
Oh, there's the crash at the back.
Shunt at the back involving a few cars. Monty up and over, McLeod, Dylan, Devantia, all involved in that one too.
Yeah, Lockie Dalton carrying some big damage from that one as well. We're going to get a modem simulation replay here. See what happened to Ricardo as the field streams into carousel ahead of him. Well, he's got a car on the inside and gets bumped off. And oh, there we go. That's what happened. He was just sent into a tank slapper, and then the rest of the field came into him. They had nowhere to go. So a spectacular incident for Riccardo Morganti, and he's going to go back to the garage and retire from this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, not the best start for him, and it's not been the best start for a few other drivers as well as Priest, Westbrook, Hobbs, all involved in various other incidents as well as Verney and Stride. Oh. It's not been the greatest start, and Finlay's in the wall too.
Oh, yeah, Finlay with a big slide on the exit of the corner, and that's another big smash sent tumbling over. Dalton, he was already carrying damage from the incident with Morganti before, so looks like Dalton trying his best to get that going again. The truck's obviously not damaged enough to retire, so a big shame for him nonetheless. It's on for third, though. Looks like Josh Thomas and Todd Maxfield. Oh, Thomas just edging Maxfield into the 90. Big oversteer on the exit. That's not going to help his run up the S's. Maxfield's going to carry the momentum there as there's more side-by-side running behind. Mitchell McLeod has advanced all the way through the field. He's now up into 8th position. He's just taken Brian Trezise. Aaron Dillon and Sam Devantia are trying to follow him through there.
Certainly trying to follow him on through, and a little bit of time as a result of being held up, but Dillon trying to make a move on Devantia now on the way down the back straight, and you can see it's on for the top 3 as well, and that's running a little bit wide as Thomas, but just manages to gather it back up.
Only just, and trying the narrow exit is Todd Maxfield, but it's not going to work for him there. As we take a look at the rest of the field streaming their way out of the carousel, we have got quite a bit of damaged machinery out there. Damian Westbrook has got a smoking engine as well, so hopefully he's able to see the finish. Nathan Verney has taken repairs in the pits, so has Sam Stride. But Daniel Stevens up into the lead of this race now, with it being on for second between Wellman and Maxfield. As we take a look at McLeod's advancing back down to P7 for now.
Certainly battling just behind as well, just further back. Aaron Dillon and Sam Devantia still going at it side by side on the way up to the exit of the boot as well. And Dillon's probably going to have the advantage and will take the position off him. But you can see that Maxfield is all over the back of Wellman, and then you've got Thomas all over the back of Maxfield as Wellman's a little bit wide, and that's going to open the door for Maxfield to try and make a little bit of contact, get shuffled out, and we'll have to fall in behind Joshua Thomas. But Thomas is now going to have a run on Wellman, and he's going to look to try and put a move on here. Drafting down the front straight on the way into turn number 1. Thomas is going to go to the outside. Wellman's going to have the inside. Maxfield's looking left, right, and center. Goes up the inside of Thomas to take the position off him and gain it back.
Great opportunistic move there from Todd Maxfield. He saw the space opening and took it. So now his target is going to be Wellman. Have a look at Josh Thomas. He's off into the grass in the S's. That's not going to be good for the drivers behind him. Great run from Cade Donnelly, though, and he's just going to pip Joshua Thomas round the outside at the end of the S's. Have a look at the run, too, from Harry Tompkins, but he's got no space to move around. for 6th place. He's completely boxed in, is Tompkins, on the run up to the carousel. Josh Thomas is going to go through on the inside, or is he? Cade Donnelly just powers it through, shoves it into the corner, trying to maintain the outside line, and it looks like it's worked out for him. He's going to have the inside line for the next left-hander, and he takes it.
Very good heads-up driving there to stick around the outside and then have the inside for the next corner, but it's going to be very close for Thomas, trying to get a move up the inside, just can't quite get it done and has to slot in behind and drop back a little bit as a result, but certainly still applying the pressure.
Oof.
Donnelly to the back of Wellman, a little bit of contact on the way out of the corner, but certainly not giving this one up, and the race one leaders are already on the back of this one as McLeod is not too far behind.
Yeah, wild Mitch McLeod appears. Thanks to all of this battling, he's really gained on these drivers. For second, though, Cade Donnelly moves through on Gary Wellman, and Joshua Thomas gets him too. So that's good for them. Mitchell McLeod searching for a way through on the back of Harry Tompkins. Tompkins goes defensive as Wellman and Thomas side by side through the left-hander. That's going to help these guys out maybe a little more. Banging wheels on the entry into the penultimate corner. Cade Donnelly now right on the back of Todd Maxfield for that 4th place. Well, my goodness, McLeod shoving it up the inside of Harry Tompkins at the final corner. He has not been able to get the run, though. Had to slow up a bit too much in the mid-corner, so now Tompkins moves over to protect from McLeod's advances into turn 1. Bit of contact between Donnelly and Thomas into the 90, just up ahead is really wide is Gary Wellman, and they're going to be 3 wide on the exit. McLeod almost hits the wall. Great avoiding action there from Mitch. How on earth did he pull that off?
No idea, and then he got a bump from Tompkins on the way up the S's as well, just to make matters worse, but certainly good bit of car control there from McLeod to hold on to it, but it's certainly, he's not going to give up here with only 2 laps to go, and he's really going to push this one hard.
Yeah, Josh Thomas and Cade Donnelly up ahead, though. You look from the back of Cade Donnelly on Josh. Oh, my goodness. A little bit of contact there between drivers. So McLeod has advanced through on Wellman. Then it's Tompkins and Finlay behind them. McLeod's next target being Joshua Thomas and Cade Donnelly here. Interesting to note, you can actually cut the inside of that left-hander and not get an off track. It's amazing what you can do in these trucks. You can dip a wheel off in the grass just about everywhere and not get an automated penalty. Oh, that was a big move there from Harry Tompkins on Gary Wellman, but did not end up working out. McLeod has a better exit on Joshua Thomas, though. They're going to be side by side coming down here into the heel of the boot as moving out on Todd Maxfield was Cade Donnelly briefly. Great defending from Joshua Thomas, meanwhile. He's held the outside very well from Mitch McLeod, so Mitch is going to have to go for the late apex here to try and get a run.
Yeah, certainly not making it easy for him is the car of Joshua Thomas, so McLeod's going to have to try and find a way by somehow or another, and hopefully it doesn't take too long because Daniel Stevens is really kicked out from the rest of the spec, so he's not going to be wanting to lose any more time here.
No, definitely not. Thomas is wide, though, in the final corner, as you can see. That's going to allow McLeod a little bit of a run onto the start-finish straight and the draft. So this could be an outbreak and move into the 90. McLeod moves over. He has a bit of a look, but ultimately decides to stay behind. That's a very late breaker maneuver from Thomas, and he's tagged Donnelly in the rear. So now both of them slow on the exit of turn 1. McLeod involved 2, and around goes Josh Thomas. Cade Donnelly gets collected by Harry Tompkins and also Christopher Finlay, and they are both stuck in the wall. Tompkins and, well, that was certainly not the way for those guys to end that one. Still stuck in the wall is Cade Donnelly. That is a huge shame for them. Modem simulation replay then. We take a look at the outside run here. Both of them coming together, and there was just nothing he could do. Nothing at all.
It looks like it all kind of started with McLeod tagging the back of Donnelly, who was already making contact with Joshua Thomas as well, and then unfortunately Thomas being pitched around, and as a result it was not going too well for Donnelly, who then got hit into that inside barrier by Harry Tompkins, and then pretty much that from there it was into the fence he goes. So unfortunately, he's going to be stuck there for some time. As although Lockie Dalton's trying to help him out, but I think it's day done, unfortunately.
That's a big shame there for Cade. But the race goes on up the front, as you mentioned, Cam. Daniel Stevens is checked out from the rest of these guys. He holds about 4.6-second lead at the moment, and McLeod will be racing for second here with Todd Maxfield on the last lap. He's in draft range, so that's going to help him when they get up past the S's. But he's leaving those tyre tracks all the way out of the corner. Just about every corner, you can tell how hard Mitch McLeod is pushing.
Certainly can, and this even if he finishes third here, it'll be in a really, really good spot as far as points concerned because he finished first in race one, and everybody that's more or less finished around him is finished either way down the order in race one or is way down the order in this one. So he's all he needs to do here is just score a decent result, and then he'll be on his way in race number 3. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the remainder of this race and whether he does manage to get on by Maxfield or not. But certainly going to be one happy chappy at this point.
Indeed, he is. A reminder: if this is the first time you're watching the Pro Truck Showdown, the round winner is determined by points gained across the entire night. So you have to score well in all 3 races if you want a go. And getting a bit acquainted with the wall there was Gary Wellman, who is still running a very strong 4th. Here's Mitch McLeod, though, in the draft of Todd Maxfield, and that is an incredible run there from Mitch. The draft is worth so much in these things. Top speed of 208 kilometers an hour coming into the carousel, and that is second place secured, at least for the moment, for Mitch McLeod. Daniel Stevens, nice and comfortable up ahead, and with more rubber being laid down on the exit for McLeod, looks like that is a message to Todd Maxfield that no, you cannot get back past me. For 5th place, though, it is on because Aaron Dillon facing a lot of pressure from Sam Devantier and Christopher Finlay. Have a look at this.
A lot of pressure from Sam at the moment on the rear of Aaron Dillon, closing up on the way into the corner, but just not quite going to be able to get the drive off the corner, unfortunately, nor is Finlay. So probably not going to be able to get a move done at this stage as they're running out of opportunities, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sam tries to send a hard one as he goes as deep as he can on the way into the end of the boot. Nearly contact, but can quite pull one off there.
Excellent job to keep out of each other's hair there. So it looks like that's going to be how they finish. But coming into the final corner is our race leader, Daniel Stevens. And an excellent start for him. Started from 6th place, taking advantage of others' mistakes, working his way through on lap 1. And he comes through for a long overdue first win in the Pro Truck Showdown. Big congrats to Daniel Stevens for that one. Mitchell McLeod is going to finish in 2nd with Todd Maxfield completing the podium. Gary Wellman, after starting 5th, finishes 4th. So a great run from him.
Definitely a good run for a number of drivers, actually, in races.
Whoa!
Quite the impact at the end of the race there by Finlay on Wellman, who was stopped in the middle of the road. But yeah, certainly not too bad of a drive for a number of drivers, including the likes of Maxfield, who started in P11 as well, remember. So really a good drive there from him, and as well as Joshua Thomas, who started P12, and Sam Devontae, who started P20 as well.
Indeed. Just coming around the last lap is Ricardo Morganti, but that is the result for the second race of the night. The feature is coming up. It's going to be an 8-lapper, and the grid will be defined by the finishing order of race 2. So Stevens and McLeod are going to be your front row. We'll be back in a second. You're watching the Pro Truck Showdown here on SimSpeed TV. Just getting the last couple of finishes from the second race with Riccardo Morganti in 13th and Damian Westbrook finishing in 14th. That is where they are going to start. No, 12th and 13th. My apologies. So those drivers are going to be starting there for this final 8-lap race of the night. But of course, we get a bit of a warm-up session here where the drivers can have a little bit of an expression session around this racetrack. But just review the action that has happened in the last two races, Cam, really goes to show that a wide track like Watkins Glen, it's already great for racing in most cars, but in these trucks, man, it really turns it up.
Certainly does, and we've seen some unbelievable lot of racing so far tonight, and we've seen it in the past two rounds as well. We saw it at Phillip Island, we saw it at Barcelona, and ironically here at Watkins Glen, which is of no surprise. But the fact that they're all wide tracks as well kind of implies that, well, you've got that width to work with, so you can sort of race with it. So yeah, it's really, really good to see this sort of racing that we're seeing, and can't wait for what the rest of the series is going to turn on.
Yes, indeed. And if you want to know about the schedule, well, we do apologize, but the schedule is a mystery. The track for the next week is revealed on the Friday of the week prior. So we've got a couple of days to wait before we find out where we're going to be at for the next round. It's going to be just as much of a surprise to us as it is to you. But these trucks reaching an excellent amount of speed on this Watkins Glen circuit. We're going to check out exactly what it looks like from above. In upstate New York, you see the green dot there, just over to the right, and it's a bit of a distance away from New York City, but it's in a beautiful area of the United States, and it's definitely a place I'd love to visit someday, up there in the Appalachian Mountains, down through into the lakes, and there is Watkins Glen International. And with 11 turns, 5.4 kilometers, it's an incredibly quick circuit. It's been that way for the better part of half a century.
It's certainly not really been much of a change. There's been some minor stuff around where the current start-finish line is, but otherwise the rest of the circuit's pretty much remained unchanged all the way from back in the early 50s and 60s. So yeah, it's really one of those historic tracks that you look at and, well, you don't actually think it's historic, but it actually is. So yeah, it's one of those tracks that's been around for a while and seems to always be one of the drivers' favorites.
Indeed, it's one of my favorites as well. You see the beautiful start-finish straight and pit complex here. And it's interesting that this camera is set up the way it is, because you see this shed here that we're about to pass over. Just to the left of that little strip of road is where the track used to go, coming out of what was then the fourth last turn, I believe. The start-finish line used to be on the run up to the S's. But these drivers going around the circuit, just testing the limits of their trucks one more time. It's good to get that little bit of time in between races to reassess how to go around this circuit, because these trucks already with a high center of gravity, set up for off-road racing, so they run very soft springs. Weight transfer, incredibly important, and you see them leaning on the truck at every single corner here.
Yeah, certainly. It really is a good time for them to, I guess, blow off some steam as well if they've had any incidents in the past few races, and also get their head back into it as well with a bit of a break in between the two races. So yeah, it is one of those things about these trucks, is with the fact that there's so much weight transfer, and the fact they're on off-road tires as well, means that it's a little bit different to probably what a few people are used to in this series, but certainly helps to mix things up.
It does, and Sam Stride showing that often the fastest way around a corner is sideways, because those off-road tyres with a limited amount of tread in them, they have, as a result, a much higher slip angle than your regular racing slick would be. So we're going to be seeing a bit more of that here in this 8-lap final race of the night, and Cade Donnelly and Sam Devantier are going to be starting. No, they're not. That is not the grid. It's going to be Daniel Stevens and Mitchell McLeod who start on the front row of this grid, with Todd Maxfield and Gary Wellman behind them on the second row. Aaron Dillon and Sam Devantier going to round out the top 6 with Christopher Finlay and Josh Thomas in the top 8. Top 10 rounded out by Brian Trezise and Dwayne Priest. We're not going to have much time, so won't be able to go through the rest of the field, but the gridding period is almost over, and we're about to get going for the final race of the night here at Watkins Glen. It's a bit longer than the other drivers have been used to over the course of this night, but it's going to be a big one. And watch out for Mitchell McLeod there on the right-hand side on the front row. He's been great at throttle application, great at starts. This is the first time that Daniel Stevens has started on pole. The revs rise. Round 4 of the Pro Truck Showdown. Race 3 is go. That's a pretty good launch there from Daniel Stevens, and Mitchell McLeod didn't get a great start there. It's not a great start for Gary Wellman either. Contact with Sam Devantier on the run up into turn 1. Wellman goes up the inside of Aaron Dillon to try and get third place, but it's not going to work for him. Side by side go McLeod and Maxfield, and they're going to go through the S's side by side. McLeod, oh, he's not in a great position here. They seize up, coming through the S's. McLeod just ahead of Maxfield when they get to the turnout point. Aaron Dillon has to slot back in behind. But Daniel Stevens, he is in trouble now. Look at the draft. Look at the train. Look at the speed McLeod is carrying. He is through halfway down the straight. Stevens might end up 4th at this stage.
It was a big speed differential between Stevens and McLeod. There's about nearly 10 kilometers an hour difference when he blew on by was McLeod. So big amount of draft advantage there for McLeod, and he's managed to take the lead as a result. But now everybody's going to be swarming in behind. You can see Finlay having to deal with Devontae, sending it up to the side as well in the background and giving Wellman a bit of a push as a result. But certainly no one making this easy for him.
Oh, that was a big smash there for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Todd Maxfield up the inside of Daniel Stevens. That was a concertina because we saw Aaron Dillon went into the back of Maxfield, who went into the back of Stevens. So now, it continues down the straight. Gary Wellman side by side with Daniel Stevens, and Sam Devantier having to take avoiding action. There was a bit of a cross-up from Christopher Finlay behind as well, who's letting Brian Trezise through. Everything's going on here on lap 1. More slides, more incidents, more contact.
Yeah, and they were 3 wide on the way up to the exit of the boot as well, where Wellman, Devontae, and Stevens is now. Stevens is continuing to go backwards. Finlay trying to force the issue on Brian Trezise, but not quite going to be able to get it done, and Westbrook's going to get involved as well.
Yeah, Westbrook going to try the wide line through the final turn, trying to get a run, and looks like he is going to get it on Christopher Finlay. He'll have the inside line for turn 1. But in the lead, Mitch McLeod doesn't have much to worry about. For 2nd on back, it is huge, though. Aaron Dillon versus Maxfield for 3rd place. Sam Devantier and Gary Wellman trading spots for 4th and 5th as well. Daniel Stevens, having started on pole and getting shuffled out of the top 5, now is the time he's going to have to start attacking again. And with this kind of line, it looks like he's on his way. But Gary Wellman, slow through the left-hander, gets a big hip check from Daniel Stevens coming onto the back straight.
Yeah, he certainly does. And Devantier side by side with Stevens as well. And Stevens going to be on the inside for the carousel. It's going to be barely enough ahead to be able to get it. He's not quite going to send it up the inside of Wellman, though. And Devantier going to try and hold around the outside as Stevens breaks a little bit early in. He's just going to hold on to the position as Devantier. Oh, a little bit of contact, but he's still going to hold on.
Yeah, only just, though. Stevens is going to be harassing him for a while yet, I think. And Kay Donnelly just securing on the pack behind. Nathan Verney's been shuffled out of the way by Sam Stride. A big slide through the corner, and that is Nathan Verney, who is around as a result of that contact with Sam Stride. So on his side for good measure. We won't be seeing any more Nathan Verney here. Modem simulation replay then. See what happened. Coming out of the carousel and into the left-hander. It was a big lunge from Stride, who actually made contact. There was already a bit of a slide on there from Verney, but Stride exacerbated it. Verney tried to recover, catches the grass, gets some more contact, and into the wall. Big shame for Nathan.
Yeah, certainly a bit of a shame. It was a little bit funny to see it just roll over on its own, but it's still certainly going on up here at the front of the field. Stevens has his hands full with Westbrook at the moment. and he's really having to try and hold off Westbrook as well. He's putting on a very solid charge, a little bit of contact on the way into the corner, and this has brought Lucky Dalton into this as well, and it's really a bit of a proverbial cork in the bottle at the moment. It is Daniel Stevens.
Yeah, looks like it. Westbrook is going to try on him again here down at the first turn. How late is Westbrook on the brakes? Very late. He fires it in. Stevens is going to get him right back here on the exit in the number 3, but have a look at Lockie Dalton. He has leapt on this opportunity and is right with them coming into the S's. So Damian Westbrook's going to be at a slight disadvantage through that right-hander. Through the left, he gets back alongside Stevens, but Daniel is the one with the momentum. And now, have a look who else is being brought into this. It's Christopher Finlay and Sam Stride. This is going to be a proper train. Stevens with the draft mob behind him. Similar situation to lap 1. Damian Westbrook is going to be on his outside into the carousel. Lockie Dalton doesn't have anywhere to go. And there goes Damian Westbrook round the outside. Can he get the throttle application down? No, he can't. A bit too much of a slide there. Has to get checked up by Lockie Dalton. Stevens is safe for a few more corners.
Yeah, certainly is. Oh, and getting into the picture of Sam Stride as well. We're setting it up the inside of Lockie Dalton as a result of him leaving the door open. Dalton wide on the grass. A little bit of contact between the two of them. And Finlay now going to look to try and make a move around the outside of these two, but going to run a little bit deep. A little bit of contact between Dalton and Stride again. And Finlay going to try hold around the outside, which looks like he's going to do on Dalton.
Yeah, only just, though. Dalton is going to have the inside for the heel of the boot. He's losing momentum down the straight. Let's see if he fires it up the inside. He does indeed. Finlay has to give him the room, but have a look at Sam Stride. He got a bit crossed up as well, so it's brought them all back together once again. Inside line for Christopher Finlay. He looks like it's going to secure the position for him versus Lockie Dalton, at least for now, because have a look at Dalton's exit there in the number 4. He seems to have the throttle application down pat and round the outside into the penultimate turn. He gets off into the grass, though. Big cross up. He's going to have to give the position back, but well played there from Lockie Dalton. That was almost an incredible move.
Yeah, it certainly nearly was, but he couldn't quite pull it off in the end, unfortunately, and he's fallen back into the clutches of Dwayne Priest as well, but just ahead, Westbrook trying to go around the outside of Stevens at turn 1. Really going to hold on. They're running right out onto the grass and bit of contact as well. A bit of a hip and shoulder from Westbrook on Stevens. So Stevens going to slot in behind, and Sam Strike going to have a really good run as a result as well of Stevens getting checked up there, but not quite going to be able to get a move up the distance, but he's going to have the draft on the way down the back straight.
That he is. Out they go then. Remember, this is the battle for 7th place back. The everyone in front of them is pretty spaced out. Westbrook goes defensive down the straight. Stevens follows him. And there goes Stevens. He switches to the inside. Is this going to be a banzai move? No, it isn't. Westbrook covers him off instantly on the run up to the carousel. Bit of rear-end contact for Stevens from Sam Stride as well. So now, I'll have a look at Sam Stride. He's got an opportunity here. He bumps Stevens. Stevens is almost sent into Damian Westbrook. They've got traffic to deal with as well. Riccardo Morganti. Stevens makes contact with him, and they are together. Stevens gets into the wall. Dalton gets into the wall. Stevens is the big opposite beneficiary of that. He's been shuffled all the way to the back of that pack.
Yeah, certainly the big loser in that big pack of cars, and unfortunately he's going to drop right down nearly closer to Lindsay Hobbs as a result, but that's going to really help Damian Westbrook to try and break away and catch Gary Wellman up the road and allow Sam Stride and Lockie Dalton to try and work their way up as well as Stride deep on the brakes again on the way into the heel of the boot.
Yeah, Dwayne Priest with an incredible move on Christopher Finlay as well. So that sorted things out for the time being for most of the drivers in that section. Mitchell McLeod still leads the race. Aaron Dillon has moved up into 2nd place, though, after starting from 5th. This is a pretty good run here from Aaron, and it seems like he's starting to make tracks. Last lap, he was 0.2 faster than McLeod. What about this time? 2:08.68 from McLeod, 2:08.161 from Aaron Dillon. He's on a charge.
Yeah, certainly on an absolute charge at the moment, trying to hunt down Mitchell McLeod at the moment, but don't think he's going to be able to quite get there. He's got 2 laps to try and get it done, but it's going to be a bit of a hard task with the gap that he's got. Gary Wellman, though, hands full with Damian Westbrook on the way up the S's, and he's all over the back of him is Westbrook, and he's got a pretty good run up the S's as well, using the way to tackle the corner to get a very, very good run. He's going to pull out a little bit of contact on the way by, but he's going to pull up alongside and be on the outside for the carousel. If he can hold this on the outside, he will have the position into the top 5.
Well, Mitchell McLeod was able to do it. Can Damian Westbrook pull it off? Wellman gains a little bit more on the entry into the corner, but there goes Westbrook in the mid-corner, flicks to the inside and gets the straight exit. So that is Damian Westbrook now up into 5th place. And Gary Wellman now faces big pressure from Sam Stride, who backs it into the left-hander. But I got to say, Wellman has been a very pleasant surprise in these second 2 races of the night. Held on really well versus some stiff competition.
Yeah, he's certainly done very, very well for himself tonight here at Watkins Glen, especially with the fact that he's been up running it with these much quicker drivers and really didn't have a good race in race 1 and seems to have struggled a little bit in the previous 2 races rounds, but certainly put on a very, very good performance tonight here at Watkins Glen.
He has indeed, and that's the way things stand at the moment. Single file running has begun for these drivers. You won't be seeing many moves until the next few corners, maybe even the next lap. You see how much they lean on the rear tyres out of that left-hander and into this second left-hander as well. The truck's almost rolling over. Meanwhile, for the lead, Aaron Dillon was gaining on Mitchell McLeod through the middle part of that lap, but it looks like McLeod's gained back a little on him. McLeod runs his first 2:08.1. It's a 2:08.094 from Aaron Dillon, so still a little bit faster. I think McLeod is going to be in trouble in the next lap or so.
He certainly is going to have his hands full, but it's very close as they're all looking to try and find a way on by. Priest goes to the grass, try and get an optimal exit, but doesn't quite seem to help him there in the end. And Dalton looking to try and set this one up to get 2 for 1, and also so is Christopher Finlay to try and get 3 for 1, but I don't think it's quite going to happen as Dalton's going to run a little bit wide on the way up the hill, and as a result going to compromise the exit a little bit, going to try and draft past Dwayne Priest. He's going to have the outside for the carousel. Use Sam Stride's draft on by Finlay, going to slot in behind as well as they come up towards the carousel. A little bit deep from Dalton, a little bit of contact on Sam Stride, who's just going to hold on to the outside as Dalton hold the position.
Only just Dalton with the inside line for the left-hander. Sam Stride doesn't have to worry about any of that. He's just got eyes forward on Gary Wellman and Westbrook just up ahead. What an incredible battle pack here. And at the very rear of that train is Daniel Stevens, who won the previous race. So we'll see how well he can do versus these guys. He has been bumped around quite a bit, has Daniel, in this final race of the night. But away they go down the foot of the boot once more. Checking back in with the leaders. Dalton and McLeod closer than they've ever been, and McLeod with the throttle application is working it out, but oh, have a look at that, an attempted move as we just briefly cut away. But coming up to the start-finish line, it's under a second now, and in most cars in iRacing, the draft comes into effect when you're about a second behind the car in front, so we'll see how much that's worth there for Aaron Dillon as they come across the line.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be very telling at this time around to see how well the draft works for Dillon. Did close up a little bit on the way into turn number 1 there as well, so he's done pretty good. There's Kate Donnelly off the road to the left-hand side. I'm not quite sure what's happened there.
Yeah, well, coming into turn 1, Sam Stride defends from Lockie Dalton, and Dalton, big contact. There we go at the bottom right of the screen. That's the end of that incident, and it's now 5 cars in one corner. Daniel Stevens makes contact with Dalton. He recovers. That means that Dwayne Priest now up at the front of this train with Sam Stride. Oh, once this is all done and dusted, we have to get a replay of them coming into turn 1 because it was spectacular. Now Sam Stride on the inside. He's going to have to protect here, and that's the number 9 of Cade Donnelly getting out of the way. Christopher Finlay is going to make it 3 wide as they come past the bus stop. Contact between Priest and Stride. Priest up on 2 wheels, but through into the lead of this pack goes Christopher Finlay. Excellent stuff. Incredibly brave. Can Sam Stride come back at him? It's going to be
Priest
3
does the
wide
same thing.
again. Look at Priest. He goes through on the inside. Huge slide to check himself up into the corner. Stride with the outside, though. He's going to get a slightly better exit, or is he? It looks like Dwayne Priest has this covered for now, but Sam Stride gives him a check there into the corner. He's going to leave the space open on the inside. Stride was bumped into the position there by Lockie Dalton. But now, all together on the exit, Christopher Finlay is going to try and come back here. Contact between himself and Stride. They almost spin. Another 3 wide moment. Why not? There goes Lockie Dalton in the middle. Let's see when they come together. Big contact between Stride, Finlay, and Dalton. Daniel Stevens has taken great advantage of that and moved up an extra position.
Yeah, he certainly has taken advantage of it. And now you have Harry Tompkins and even Lindsay Hobson. This is into the wall. And Finlay barely saves it in the wall, though. Riding the wall, barely holds onto it, though. But what an absolute battle pack this is.
It's just incredible. Mitch McLeod has lost the lead, meanwhile, into turn 1. I said it was going to happen, and it has. Aaron Dillon and Mitch McLeod trade places, but it's going to be a hard-fought one for Aaron because McLeod sticks it up the inside into the S's. Oh, no, they're going to be side-by-side up here. God help us. McLeod around the outside secures the position back, but Aaron Dillon into the draft. This is the final lap of the race. And this is going to decide who takes the final victory. Mitch McLeod is placed, though, to take the round victory with a win and a second place. If he finishes first or second here, he will still win the round. He protects the lead into the carousel. Broke the draft from Aaron Dillon. Really well done. Sam Devantier is starting to come up to the back of these guys, so he might be a factor nearer to the end of the lap.
Yeah, he certainly might be a factor near the end of the lap, but who knows what's going to happen. That's for sure. It's just going to be a waiting game, and McLeod's just going to have to do everything he possibly can to try and hold off Aaron Dillon, who's not going to be giving this one up easily.
No, he certainly isn't. Hooks up the right side tyres onto the curb. He's going to have a couple more opportunities to send one up the inside on McLeod, but Mitch is supreme when it comes to throttle application. He's getting the run onto the straight, and that is what is protecting him. Oh, slight technical drama there for Mitch McLeod. Hopefully that doesn't affect him. Sam Devantier tried his best to put a move on Aaron Dillon there, but a bit too much of a slide. So now Dillon, he fired it a bit too hard into the left-hander. He's lost valuable ground to McLeod there and opened himself up to an attack from Devantier. This is what Mitch McLeod wanted. This is what Mitch McLeod needed. 2 corners to go, and now only 1 for Mitch from Torque Inc. For second, it's going to be close because Aaron Dillon is being pressured by Devantier around the outside. They make contact, but that's going to be sorted out. Dillon in front. McLeod definitely in front. He takes victory.
Yeah.
Oh, or does he? Yes, he does. Oh, there was a slight technical drama there for McLeod across the line, but he popped back in. He has taken the race victory, and we presume the round. The rest of the field sorting themselves out behind them. It was a big train all the way to the end for about 7th place on back. That's incredible.
Yeah, it certainly was, and Daniel Stevens going to be the victor in that little battle as well. Sam Stride just behind. Lockie Dalton coming from 12th on the previous lap to 9th in the end as well, and Lindsay Hobbs from 11th to a top 10. So yeah, what a battle pack and what a race it's been. It's been absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that was fantastic racing. I mean, this best combo on iRacing. There, I said it. Oh man, that was such a good race. Such a good night of racing. Those are your final results then. Mitch McLeod takes the win, and backing that up with a 2nd place in the 2nd race, 1st place in the 1st race, he should come away with the round victory. Aaron Dillon and Sam Devantier complete the podium with Maxfield and Westbrook rounding out the top 5. It's going to be Wellman and it's going to be Westbrook, Wellman and Stevens in coming up to 7th place. No, actually, that's I think that might be a no. That is a different set of results. So it's going to be Stevens, Stride, Dalton, and Hobbs in rounding out the top 10, and Finlay coming home in 11th. with Harry Tompkins, Brian Trazees, Dwayne Priest coming home in 14th. There was a bit of a shuffle on the last lap that I think we missed out on. Nathan Verney completes the top 15 with Riccardo Morganti still running and coming home in 17th. But Thomas Coots and the two Howes did not even take the start. Josh Thomas, despite his results in the first two races, electing not to complete the night. So there we go. My goodness. Give us a moment now to catch our breath. That brings to an end proceedings for tonight, Cam. I really enjoyed this one, and I cannot wait for the next round once again.
Yeah, certainly can't wait for it. What a night of racing. You couldn't ask for any better racing. If anything, a better track to do it on. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing what next week is going to show, because you can't probably beat this, but who knows, and it probably will.
Yeah, and whatever track it's at, you'll find out when we find out. It's going to be an interesting championship. But in terms of the points, I reckon Mitchell McLeod has almost got a handle on this championship as well. Either way, we'll find out what happens next Wednesday night. You've been watching SimSpeed TV. I'm Reese Gardner, Cam Dance alongside me, and behind the scenes, making everything happen with the cameras and all that, was Scott Fountain. Big thanks to Scamander Coffee Mug for their support of this series. Big shout out, of course, to Modem Simulation as well on the replays. It's bye for now, but not forever.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything else. Both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?